Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to be sharing on key things you should look out for in your tenancy agreement as an international student in the UK before you sign it. And trust me, I'm going to be sharing from my own personal experience how I did not read my tenancy agreement and how it got me into like major trouble. Because as an international student, it's easy for you to be taken advantage of just because you do not have the right information. As always, information is critical to success in any endeavor. And that's why I just want to share on these key things you should look out for so you don't sign something that's going to put you into trouble in the long run. Okay, before we go on, don't forget to join the CP community. We support international students with the right information, resources, and a supportive community. So click the link below. It's free to join. Join us, sign up to our mailing list, join our Telegram group, follow us on Instagram at the CP community, Twitter at the CP community _. Okay, let's get started. Okay, so before we go on, I have created an accommodation viewing checklist of the key things you have to look out for when you're viewing at a house in the UK, so you know what you're looking out for. It's very detailed. Just click the link in the description box to download your copy. It is free to download, and also when you download it, you get added to a workflow in my mailing list that will keep sending you useful information about accommodation and all you need to know. Okay, now for those that don't know, a tenancy agreement is the agreement you sign when you want to rent a house in the UK. Usually as students, the one you're signing is known as fixed term assured short hold agreement. Don't stress about it. Basically, once you are to rent an apartment or a house, the landlord will give you this tenancy agreement to sign. Now, as with any document that requires you to sign, you have to ensure you read it. This is not, those terms and conditions we always click yes on our apps. When you're downloading an app, you just click yes that you've read it, even though you did not read it. This is not the time to do that. With a tenancy agreement, you want to read the fine lines. You want to read the fine print, okay? So the very first thing to look out for on your tenancy agreement is the rent, okay? How much is the rent? How are you going to pay it? When is the rent due? Are you going to be paying it at the end of every month? Are you going to be paying it at the beginning of every month? You need to read this clearly. In addition, when you're about to rent a property, the landlord will require some documents from you just to prove your right to rent in the UK. As an international student, this would usually be documents proving your immigration and student status. So this will be your passport, this will be your biometric residence permit, your BRP, this will be your student ID or a letter from your school, okay? Also, they would need a guarantor as well. A guarantor is someone that stands in for you in case you're unable to pay your rent. So it's like, if I'm unable to pay my rent, this person can help me pay it. So you can see it's a major deal. And why landlords want to do that is just so, because as a student and also as an international student, they can't really trust you per se. So they need someone else who is living in the UK to step in and be like, I'm going to cover the bills for this person if this person defaults on payment. Okay, so yeah, and I know that one of the struggles international students have is finding guarantors. Like, how do you actually, especially if you don't have anybody in the UK, how do you find someone there? I also don't know but I know that there are some services online that actually provide this. I can't recommend any service because I've not used anyone before. I was lucky to get someone in the UK when I arrived who was willing to do that for me. So yeah, you might want to just check out the services online, but of course ensure you do your due diligence. I'm not recommending any service for that right now, so sorry. But if you join the community, eventually we should be able to recommend some guarantor services that will just help your moving into the UK a bit more seamless. Okay, so another thing you want to look at on your tenancy agreement is your tenancy deposit. So when you want to move into a house into the UK, you're required to pay a tenancy deposit, which is usually up to 1 month's rent, or it can depend on your landlord and where you're renting. So that means this is money that you pay just in case you spoil anything at the end of your tenancy. The landlord is going to take money out of this to repair it. So when you're signing your tenancy agreement, ensure that your tenancy deposit is clearly stated there, the amount, and also stated that it will be refunded to you at the end of your tenancy agreement, or that they will take any money from there if you spoil anything. Just ensure that it is clearly stated there. And also, with regards to your rent, check for any late fee. So if, for example, you're defaulting on rent, is there a clause that says, you would have to pay so and so amount as well if you default on your rent? So for example, if your rent is £450, check your tenancy agreement. Does it say, oh, if you are owing that rent for that month, the next month you would have to add £50 on top? So that means instead of paying £450 that you're owing, you now end up paying £500. Some tenancy agreements have this clause, so just ensure you check that if you're defaulting, like what's the process like? If you're owing the landlord, would you have to incur more fees on top of your rent? Check that. Another important thing sorry, I'm holding my mic with this hand. So yeah, another important thing you want to check is repairs, because as with anything, wear and tear is inevitable. So when you live in a house for over a year, some things are definitely going to break down. So you want to check the repairs. Who is responsible for it? Of course, small things like fixing a bulb, you would be responsible for it. You also want to check your responsibilities on the tenancy agreement. It will state the things that you are to do, and I'm sure one of them will be, keeping the house clean. If the drainages get blocked, you have to unclog it, taking out the bins, stuff like that. It will all be listed. But for major repairs, you want to ensure that it is clearly stated who is responsible for that. And if it is your landlord that is responsible, you have to ensure that you give your landlord written notices regarding items in the house that are spoiled. So if your means of communication is email, ensure you write like whatever is broken down in the house, write it and give the landlord notification, and have a copy of that just so if things go south. Yeah, but just ensure you have written notices to your landlords. Okay. Another important thing you want to look out for when signing your tenancy agreement is the policy. So what is the policy regarding pets? What is the policy regarding smoking? What is the policy regarding subletting? Okay, some landlords will tell you, oh, you can't smoke in this house, but you can smoke outside. Some landlords will tell you, oh, pets are not allowed. Some will say pets are allowed in the building. So you need to check this, and it may not necessarily apply to you. For example, if you're not a smoker, you'd be like, oh, why should you check the smoking policy? You should check it because you may have housemates. If you're staying in a shared apartment, you may have housemates that smoke, and that smoking indoors can affect you as well. So once you're fully aware that smoking is not allowed inside the property, you can easily meet your housemate and be like, excuse me, you need to stop smoking indoors. This was something that happened with me as well. In the house that I was living in, smoking was not allowed in the building. It was allowed in the garden. But then at some point, some of my housemates started smoking inside, and I don't smoke. So for me, it became an issue. I didn't want to be a passive smoker because the smoke would be all over the house. And I would go and knock on the door and be like, excuse me, please, could you stop smoking indoors? Because it's not allowed. And so when I told them, and I'm like, the policy actually says smoking is not allowed, so you know this, can you stop doing that? They told me they apologized and they're like, they're sorry, and then they went outside and stayed smoking outside. So I did not have to escalate it to the landlord. So it's important, maybe not for yourself, but that with the people you're staying with, it's important for you to know the policies regarding smoking, regarding pets, regarding subletting and all of that. So some landlords will tell you can't sublet that house. Most landlords will say you can't sublet your room, which means you can't rent this room and then get someone else to stay in the room with you. It's not allowed. So you need to check these policies. Another important thing you want to check, which is kind of tied down to your rent, is the bills. Okay, so some houses will say all bills inclusive, some will say no bills inclusive, some will say some bills inclusive. So whatever it is, just ensure you check it. Ideally, as a student, I would advise you go for a house with all bills inclusive. It just saves you the stress of having to sort out your bills on a monthly basis. If you can't get that and it is bills non-inclusive, just ensure you ask questions as you're about to sign. Okay, so the internet, who is going to pay for it? Are you the one? Fully understand it. The utilities, gas, electricity, water. You may want to ask the landlord what utility providers does he use for the house if you're the one to pay the rent. Like all of that, just get to know what is applicable to you and what you'll be working with. In addition to that, if you have intentions to drive in the UK, you might want to ask your landlord about the parking arrangements. Okay, not every housing in the UK comes with parking. Some you have to be paying for parking, so you just need to ask, what is the parking arrangement like for cars? Like, how do you park cars? Another important thing you want to ask about if you'll be paying the bills is TV license. You want to ask your landlord if it is already paid for or if you would have to pay TV. Now, TV is only applicable to cable TV and local stations like BBC, all of that. If you want to watch it on the telly, but if you want to watch Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, YouTube, you don't need a TV license for this. Okay, Another very important thing I want to mention here is council tax. Okay, council tax. As an international student in the UK, council tax is not applicable to you, but sometimes you might need to get the exemption letter from the council. So I would advise you call Citizens Advice in your area, and then they'll tell you how to go about applying for the exemption letter, which you can provide so that you are not billed council tax. Ideally, you're exempted from it. But you should check your agreement to see when it becomes applicable. Some landlords will write that at the end of the tenancy, like once you're done living in the house as a student, you have to move out of the house, okay? Like they won't take you staying in the house once you're no longer a student, because that is a student property. Some will tell you it's fine, you can stay in the house after you're done with your studies, but council tax will become applicable to you at that point. So ensure you check the clause about council tax. Now, council tax is the money that you pay to the government in order, to keep the roads clean, to take out your trash, for your sewage, your drainages, all of that. So that's what council tax is used for, and it becomes applicable to you once you're done studying, okay? Not when your visa expires. Once your course end dates start, like once it is your course end date, council tax becomes applicable to you as a student. So make sure you're fully aware of this. And then if you're living in a house where you're the only one who is done with studies and then council tax become applicable, there's a 25% discount you get from the government in order to help you pay your council tax. But ideally, honestly, I would advise that once you're done being a student in a student house, leave that place, because if not, for example, if it's a 4-bedroom apartment, you would pay the council tax for a 4-bedroom apartment. If it's a 2-bedroom apartment, you will pay the council tax for a 2-bedroom apartment. But of course, with the 25% discount, regardless, it is still going to be a lot of money. So it's better for you to move into a house with professionals, like with people that are actually working. So all of you are splitting the council tax equally. If not, you'll be carrying a whole lot of money on yourself, okay? As always, you can call Citizens Advice in your local area and they will give you the best advice regarding this. Another important thing you want to check on your tenancy agreement is the break clause. So break clause means how you can end this tenancy agreement even before the due date, okay? Every tenancy agreement has a start date and an end date. So peradventure now you want to leave that house before the end date. That is what is known as the break clause, okay? You and the landlord have to agree that you can leave the house and then you leave. So you want to check what the terms for the break clause is. Is it that if you're relocating, you can break the agreement? Is it that, if you can no longer afford your rent? Like, just check what the break clause is. So if you want to leave before the end of the tenancy agreement, you can do that. Another important thing, which I think I've already mentioned, is the start and end date. You want to check when your tenancy starts and when it ends. Just ensure that the dates are correct so that you're not signing something and then the dates are wrong. So ensure that the dates are correct. Like the end date is when you actually agreed to end it with the landlord. And one very important thing I want to mention, especially for you as an international student, is that your landlord cannot evict you out of the blues, okay? Your landlord cannot show up in your house today and throw you out. It does not work like that. There is something called due process, and if your landlord does not take due legal process, he or she is liable to being like charged. Like you can actually take them to court, and like it can. My point is, they can be arrested for that. Let me put it that way. They can be arrested for that. So whatever it is, if you're owing rent, don't feel like, for example, if you're coming from Nigeria, it's easy to feel like, the landlord is going to show up in your house the next day and just throw your things outside. It doesn't work like that in the UK. There's a legal process which the landlord has to take, all right? And also, please be a good tenant. If you're going to owe rent, ensure you let your landlord know. Give them notice. Just be good. Take care of the property. Don't do things you wouldn't want someone else to do to your property, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's about it. I hope you found this video helpful. Do not forget to download your accommodation viewing checklist. It's free to download. Click the link in the description box and download yours today. Okay, if you're moving to the UK soon, there's a service known as Movido. They would help you. They could arrange airport pickup for you, your utilities providers. If you be doing that yourself, they can help you find the best utility provider. They can help you even look for accommodation and all of that. And if you use my code Chidera at checkout, you get a 20% off. So click the link in the description box as well to use Movido if it's something you want to try. Okay. All right, guys. All right, guys, till next time. Thank you so much for watching. I need to find a way to be holding this mic. Is it that I'll be pinning it? But if I pin it here, I feel like it's picking the vibrations of my esophagus. But I need to find a way to keep this mic, because sometimes holding it like this is not the best. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Till next time, guys. Bye bye.